Nominations are now in order for the office of President-elect. According to our rules, this nomination will be from the podium.
Good morning. My name is Pat Guillaume, and I'm the alternate director from Texas. Fellow members of this esteemed House of Delegates, today I stand before you to ask for your assistance in working through some questions which have been on my mind. What qualities should we seek and require for the future leaders of our society? Should they possess an ample and nimble intellect? Should they have unquestioned integrity and proven dedication to addressing the complex issues facing our specialty? Should they have unparalleled expertise in legislative and governmental affairs? Should they have demonstrated leadership by being the chair of an academic department which has more than doubled in size in the past decade? Perhaps in finding a suitable person, some reasonable compromise will be required. All of these are difficult questions. But fellow members of the House, I am pleased to report that we are indeed fortunate to have a physician who meets all of these criteria. With a candidate of Dr. Jane Fitch's capabilities, compromise is not required. And if all she had were these impressive qualifications, that would be enough. But having known her for almost 20 years, I can tell you that her sterling credentials are matched only by her personal qualities and endearing temperament. At this critical juncture in time, when American medicine is meeting American politics, we must select a leader who is expert in both. With Dr. Fitch at the helm, compromise will not be required. What will be required is an increased sense of optimism for the future of our specialty and for the well-being of our patients. Officers of the society, directors and alternates, delegates and alternates, valued staff, and distinguished guests, it is my great pleasure and privilege to nominate for the office of President-elect my dear friend, Dr. Jane Fitch.
Thank you, Dr. Guillaume. Dr. Jane Fitch is nominated for President-elect. Although none is required, is there a second? Microphone number 5, sorry.
Erin Sullivan, alternate director, Pennsylvania. It gives me great pleasure to nominate Dr. Jane Fitch as President-elect of the ASA.
Thank you. Are there further nominations for the office of President-elect? There are no further nominations. Nominations for this office are now closed. The chair recognizes Dr. Fitch for her remarks to the House.
Thank you, Pat, for that gracious nomination, and Erin for your second. Officers, delegates, colleagues, and guests, thank you for your continued confidence and support, not only for me as your incoming president-elect, but for the entire ASA leadership team. I'm especially grateful for Dr. Cohen's leadership and guidance this past year, and for Dr. Zerwas's willingness to assume the presidency in these challenging times. As your president-elect, I will lead our strategic planning process that sets the priorities for our ASA. I'll have responsibility for the budgeting process to ensure that we are fully funded in order to discharge our strategic plans. I will have the opportunity to appoint committee members and ensure that the appropriate members and leaders are in place to effectively carry out the will of this House and of our board. This past year, as your first Vice President, I've had the privilege of attending many of your state component meetings to learn firsthand what's occurring in your state and to share information from other states. And I never cease to be amazed by the ASA members who give of their time, energy, and efforts. ASA is unique in that we are a bottom-up, member-driven volunteer organization. The best ideas often come from the bottom up, and that's a tribute to all of you, and it is my honor to facilitate your efforts. Dr. Zerwas hails from a state just south of mine. We sometimes call it Baja, Oklahoma, but only in jest. Our two states actually have a lot in common besides football, and that's all I'm going to say about that game yesterday. For example, there's a lot of good fishing that goes on down there. And some like to use nets to catch the fish. And they will tell you two things. You've got to keep your nets mended, and you've got to have a lot of nets if you're going to catch a lot of fish. So in keeping with our annual meeting theme of transforming patient safety through education and advocacy, there is no more important role that we play than providing a safety net for our patients by providing physician supervision. The scope of practice expansions we face will only grow more numerous. ASA will have no more vocal advocate for the primacy of the physician-led healthcare team than me. Our collective goal in the future is to keep ASA's nets mended and to weave new nets to help meet the opportunities and challenges before us. We must widen our safety net by assuring that pain medicine and critical care remain the practice of medicine. We must widen our safety net by implementing rural pass-through legislation, allowing anesthesiologists to practice in rural areas. Our patients deserve to know that our safety net is strong. That's why we support truth and transparency legislation that assures our patients know who is providing their care. Our patient safety net encompasses so much more: the elimination of drug shortages and the coming crisis in physician supply. We must confront this perfect storm of the aging baby boom generation, the planned shift of more than $700 million from Medicare, and 30 million newly insured under the Affordable Care Act. The numbers are scary. The AAMC predicts a nationwide physician shortage of over 63,000 physicians by 2015, just as projected Medicare cuts threaten to further curtail funding for residency training. Finally, our safety net is anchored on the foundation of our perioperative surgical home model of care delivery. That comprehensive perioperative and procedural medical care that must be physician-led is how we differ from nurse anesthetists. We must stay vigilant against those forces that would seek to unravel our safety nets. One such force is a non-discrimination clause in the Affordable Care Act, as well as recent efforts to downplay the critical importance of anesthesiology by entities such as the FTC, the RWJ Foundation, and even the Institute of Medicine. IPAB looms just outside our safety net. We know that low Medicare payment for anesthesia services cuts a gaping hole in our net that sustains our practice and our specialty. We must have fair payment and SGR reform. We all know that the fate of the Affordable Care Act is at stake at the upcoming election, and it's not my intent to talk politics today, but no matter who prevails on November 6th, our nation is not through debating health care reform. Many of the forces waiting to shred our safety net lack knowledge and lack understanding. That's why one of the most important jobs in the future lies in the area of education. We must educate physicians, but our responsibility to educate extends far beyond our specialty, CME, and MOCA. We must educate our patients, our colleagues, and the public as to who we are and what we have to offer as physician leaders of the healthcare team. Our ASA leadership team, under the outstanding direction of Dr. Barbara Fossum, our interim CEO, has focused on unifying our staff structure and critically analyzing each and every position in order to benefit both our staff and our members. Soon we will have that new CEO to lead us for years to come and a new headquarters building in which to work. We are financially strong and well positioned to lead. The motto of ASA is vigilance. Never before has the need for eternal vigilance been greater, nor the stakes higher. The best minds and the most effective advocates are not up here on this stage. They are out there among all of you and in the communities where you live and work day in, day out. You are the safety net that our patients deserve and our specialties so desperately need. And I am proud and honored to serve all of you. Thank you for all that you do.